Okay, welcome everyone. This is the knife that we are going to sharpen today. It is a 210mm Gyuto made by Takamura Hamono. It is from their VG10 Special line. We carry this line at the shop. They are fantastic knives, and this has been brought in by a customer for their first free sharpening. Every knife at Sharp comes with a first free sharpening, so I thought it would be fun for us to do this together. This is the Japanese equivalent to a chef's knife, so anything that you learn here today is applicable to any other chef's knife you come across, with the exception of the angle that we're going to use to sharpen it, as I would say you're going to want to sharpen this a little bit flatter to the stone than you would your average stainless steel knife made by a German brand. So we're going to use only two stones to sharpen this knife today, a 1000 grit and a 5000 grit. Both of these stones are made by Suihiro from their Surax line. This is, like I said, a 1000 grit that we're going to start on, and we're going to move on to their new to the shop 5000 grit Rika stones. So first thing obviously we need to do, like we would with any other knife, is give it a quick assessment, and right off the bat I can see a little bit of scratching coming up the tip here, up the side of the blade. A little bit tough to see, but it is there if you can't see it at home. So I'll be a little bit cautious doing the tip and just make sure I'm doing everything right. Other than that, everything looks to be in pretty good order here. These knives are always nice and straight, so usually nothing to worry about on these. I'm going to sharpen this at an angle right around there, which again, I never like to say exact angles because I honestly don't know exactly what angle that is, but I'm going to say around 15 degrees or so. So without further ado, let's get started here. So just like the video we did on the Santoku, I'm just going to talk myself through this whole process and explain to you what I'm doing. So the reason I didn't go down any lower than a 1000 grit stone is because, like I said, this knife is in relatively good shape. It definitely needs a sharpening, but it's not too bad, so we won't have to remove very much steel to get this knife back in tip-top shape. What I'm doing is applying pressure as I push away from myself on the stone, and then releasing pressure as I come back to the starting position, and moving my fingers down the length of the knife. Working all the way from the heel up to the tip, and then all the way back down again. Now my hand pressure is firm, but I don't want to be too aggressive. Like I said, if this knife was in worse condition than it is, we would probably go down to a lower stone, and we'd probably use extra hand pressure to get rid of the steel that we need to. But like I said, this knife is in really good shape, so we're not going to have to press too hard, and we're not going to go down too low on the stones. And I'm feeling a burr starting already. I'm just going to continue working the entirety of the blade as evenly as possible. And what I like to do is sort of work from the heel all the way up to the tip in these little sections here, and then put in a couple long strokes like this just to even all of that work out. And what I'm trying to develop is what's called a burr. So as we remove material from this knife, if we're sharpening this side of the blade, we're going to feel a thin lip of steel start to form on the back side of the blade. So it can be a little bit difficult to get across over video. If you've never felt a burr before, it feels kind of like a little lip or like kind of scratchy, rough thread on the back side of the knife. So again, if I'm sharpening this side, I'm going to feel it on this side. It's always going to show on the side of the blade facing you. And I want it to be nice and even. It should feel the same all the way from the tip to the heel. The Gyuto is a little bit different than the Santoku, which is the knife we did our previous video on, just because of the curvature of the blade. So when we're doing our strokes, we can't just be going straight, straight the whole time. We have to sort of match the curvature of the blade in our stroke. And the way I'm doing that is just kind of lifting up the handle of the knife and coming down, bringing it back down and through to match the curvature of the blade. And I feel a really nice burr going right now. It feels nice all the way from the tip down to the heel. And now when I check my edge as well, what I'm looking for is consistency again. So I want to see a consistent edge. It should look the same width the whole way from the tip down to the heel. And as you can see here, our edge is looking very consistent. Like I said, these knives from Takamura Hamono are usually always perfectly straight, so if your angles are consistent, your edge will always look very, very consistent and straight. So again, if I'm seeing any scratching coming up the side of the blade, or if I'm seeing any cloudy spots, anything other than a nice clean, hard line at the edge, I know I'm not being super consistent, and I just want to sort of work on keeping myself a little bit in better position. So now that the burr is formed from the heel all the way up to the tip, I'm going to flip the knife over. My thumb's coming up to the spine, index finger over top. And now instead of starting closest to us on the stone, we're going to start furthest away, and we're going to apply pressure as we pull the knife towards us. When you're first starting out, you just want to take your time with this. Don't go too fast. As you get better, you can start leaving the knife in contact with the stone. And same thing on this back side as on the front side. I'm trying to maintain my angle, same angle, 15 degrees or so. And I'm trying to remove steel until I formed a burr, just like on the opposite side. So again, I'm just working in sections all the way from the heel to the tip and then back. And then I'm just going to put in some nice long strokes just to even all of that work out and see where I'm at with my burr. And my burr is formed on this back side already. So typically what will happen is the burr will form quite a bit quicker on the second side that you do. And if you're right-handed, a lot of guys will put a 70-30, or left-handed for that matter, a lot of guys will put a bevel dominant to what hand they use. So if you're right-handed, you're going to sharpen this side of the blade 70% and this side of the blade 30%. That, in my experience, will allow you to get more precision out of your knife without the knife sort of wandering in a direction. So with single beveled knives, they tend to sort of angle in towards your fingers a little bit, which is their one and only downfall. And I don't really like that to happen on my knives, and most people that come in want a knife that's going to, cut straight. So 70-30 in my experience is the most sort of aggressive you can get with the bevel on this side without the knife sort of changing the way it feels when you use it. So the only reason I bring that up is because you want to make sure you've done enough work on the back side. Even if the burr forms immediately, I like to put in just a little bit of extra work, as you can tell. And now my burr still feels great, and I'm ready to move on. And just a little work at the heel here. Cool, and then again, just like on the other side, we're going to check our edge, make sure we're being nice and consistent, and I can see that I am. My edge looks the same width all the way from the tip to the heel. So now I'm ready to move on to the third and final step on this 1000 grit stone, which is to deburr. So now what I'm going to do is put nice long strokes in, all the way from the tip to the heel. I'm going to stay right where I am, come right back on the opposite side, heel to tip. And I'm just going to keep doing this, lightening up my hand pressure as I go, so that by the end of this process I'm barely applying any pressure and really just allowing the weight of the knife to contact the stone. And to check your work after this deburring process, we're going to check both sides of the knife. Make sure that there are no burrs remaining on either side, and if we run our fingers down the length of the knife, we should feel the knife sort of grabbing into our skin. So I feel no burr, and yes, the knife feels like it very much wants to cut into my fingers right now. If I just barely touch it, I can kind of feel it grabbing into my fingers, so I'm happy. A couple more just light strokes here. Okay, yes, very good. I'm very happy now. So we're all done on this 1000 grit stone. Time to move on to the 5000 grit stone. Okay, so here we are on our 5000 grit Rika stone from Suihiro. These just came into the shop. I'm really excited about them. They're really beautiful stones. And now we are going to follow the exact same process that we did on the 1000 grit stone. We're going to use the same angle, and we're going to use a slightly less heavy hand pressure at this point. Because we're on this polishing grit stone, we want to be sort of light with our hand pressure and work to refine that edge that we've put on. You'll notice I'm doing the exact same process, working all the way from the heel to the tip in little sections, just moving my fingers down the length of the blade. And then putting in some nice long strokes here just to even everything that I've done out. And then we'll check our work here, see how we're doing. And love the polish that you get off of these 5000 grit stones from Suihiro. They're really, really beautiful stones. They come with a stand included as well, which is really nice. Okay, so my burr is formed already. There's a couple parts that I'm not super happy with the polish that I've gotten, so I'm just going to keep working at those parts a little bit, namely the tip and a little bit in through here isn't quite where I'd like it to be, so it's a little bit of extra work here. Like I said, it's important not to work one part of the knife more than any other. If you're having trouble with one section of the blade, just continue working the entirety of the blade until that section works itself out. The danger if you're focusing too much on one part of the knife is affecting the profile of the knife, so you may end up with a flat spot where you don't want one, or a bit of a rut or something like that, so just be careful with that sort of stuff. My burr feels really, really nice right now. I just want to do a little bit more work on the tip here. The tip can be the toughest part. If you watched our Santoku sharpening video, you'll know I like to employ these sort of like half moon strokes on the tip. You kind of have to lift the handle of your knife up to get up on the tip there and get good contact with it. And I'm much happier with that now. Yes, very happy. So I'm going to flip over and work on the other side. Before I do that though, you'll notice I've got some steel plugged up in my stone here. Now these stones from Suihiro come with what's called a Nagura stone, or a dressing stone. I've had mine just soaking in there. What we're going to do is use this to pull out any of that steel that's embedded itself into our stone here. There we go. And I'm not 100% sure what the grit is on those dressing stones, so I just like to rinse my stone right off after that, and now we've got a beautiful clean stone ready to use. That steel is going to make your stone less effective, so it is very important to make sure you pull the steel out of your stone once in a while. And now obviously I'm flipped over on the other side, following the same process I did on the last stone we used. Using the same angle that I've been using and using the same hand pressure I used when I did the front side of this knife on this stone, which is slightly less than what the hand pressure we used on the 1000 grit stone was. And we'll take a look at our edge now. Looks really nice. Really like the polish you get, like I said already, but burr just doesn't feel quite where I want it to be yet, so we're just going to give a little bit more work here. couple long strokes just to even everything out. Burr feels great. My edge looks great. So I'm happy, guys. I'm going to move on to my third and final step on this stone, which is to deburr. I'm going to put in these nice long strokes, switching sides every time. And always remember, the quality of your strokes is more important than the quantity. Take your time when you do this, make sure you're being consistent. All I'm focused on right now is making sure I'm making good contact with the knife all the way from tip to heel, and progressively getting lighter with my hand pressure, making sure I'm using the most consistent angle possible. Okay, guys. So again, when I'm checking my work after deburring, I'm checking both edges, checking this side, checking this side. If I don't feel anything, that's a good sign. If I run my fingers down the length of the blade and it feels like it wants to grab into my fingers, that's a good sign as well. And this knife feels really, really nice and sharp right now. We're going to move on to the last step here, which is to strop our knife on a piece of leather. Always make sure your knife is super dry before you use the strop, because any wet spots on your strop are going to get really sticky and it just gets kind of annoying having to deal with a sticky strop. So, on our strop, we're using our honing strokes that we've been using to hone on that 5,000 grit stone. Switching sides every time here. Making sure we're getting good contact with the entire length of the blade. Making sure with the Gyuto that you're sort of following the profile of the knife, so as it kind of curves up at the tip, you have to match that with your stroke and kind of get up on the tip like that, lift up the handle a little bit. And again, quality over quantity. Nice, easy strokes here. I'm not applying a tremendous amount of pressure. I don't want to see the knife bending or anything. And oh yes, this guy is very sharp. Oh yeah, very sharp. So, there you go, guys. How to sharpen a Gyuto. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel for more knife-related content. And until the next video, I hope you have a pleasant day.